Hey Top Centers, Razor Joey here, today talking about the potential for set synchronization and what it could mean for the Pokemon TCG. Now, first, let's start off by saying that yes, I do want the set releases to be synchronized, but no, I don't think they actually will do it. So first a bit of backstory to why people think that set releases could be synchronized. It all started a short while after X and Y was announced. We knew the handheld games were going to be released globally, and then Happy Elves over at Pokemon decided to announce that the next Japanese set, X Battle Boost, would be a reprint set. This sent tongues wagging. A reprint set can be skippable. The card sets also tended to be released around the same time as game releases, or when movies were about to launch, creating a self-advertising trinity of sorts, where the movies, card game and handheld supported each other. And this is where my belief that the card game was going to synchronize came from. Basically, I was using Pokemon's existing marketing trends to see if it was possible to synchronize sets, and if potential fitted situation, I affirmed that it must be possible. As time passed though, it became pretty evident that the sets wouldn't be synchronizing. First with them showing us new cards in the X Battle Boost, then the announcement of rotation just after X Battle Boost landed seemed to confirm that X Battle Boost will be released here. Hence why cards like Cobalion from Emerging Powers and Gothitelle from the same set weren't mentioned in our last episode covering the rotation, because of a strong possibility of them having a reprint in our upcoming set. Now let's get to the topic at hand. What would synchronization mean and why do people want it? Now there's going to be quite a lot of opinion in this episode, and I have nothing against anyone who wants to pipe up in the comments below with their own opinion. Personally, I see synchronization as a step forward for the Pokemon TCG. As I voiced in the X Battle Boost episode, it gives the entire Pokemon community the chance to play on a level playing field and to learn new decks at the same time. I see this as an advantage due to the fact that, as the game stands now, we get to see what's getting released 5 months in advance of it being released over here, and we also get to see how a certain set is affecting the game over in Japan, meaning we know what deck to run and a list to build before the set is even localized. This in itself leads to a mild stagnation in the format, as even though with the same card pool we'd most likely find our way to the same decks. Because we already have lists, we don't experiment with the lists as much as we would if we were building it from scrap. So we'd have the same decks in format, but we'd have more variation of those same decks. And in my opinion, there isn't a single game that couldn't benefit from there being more variation in individual decks. Another advantage of syncing set releases comes from our secondary market. For the last 2 seasons, competitive card prices have been increasing, with some pre-orders reaching around the $95 mark. Now that's the price of a box for one card, and I can personally think of a lot of people who don't have the spare money to buy a box, let alone spend that amount on 1 or 2 cards. Pre-order prices won't tend to travel as high if we don't know the whole set before it lands, because who will realistically spend nearly $100 on 1 or 2 cards just to have the rest of the set say that that card is useless and non-competitive? I think it's safe to say that no one will take that risk. And if pre-order prices aren't as high, then when the set finally does land, more people can afford to buy the better cards and be able to play good decks. Now I know that sellers might not like the sound of that, but to be fair, they can still make a good profit from the lower prices. I've always been the type of person to believe that the key to better sales is to lower your profit margin and sell more units. It's always going to be preferable to make a 25% profit and sell 1 unit than it is to make a 100% profit and sell no units. To be honest, I can think of at least one business that would still be here today if its higher ups were smart enough to implement that strategy. Now, one complaint I've seen thrown against syncing sets is the fact that people want to know what they're buying into before they come out of pocket for cards. And that is a good argument to have. I do feel that there is one flaw in it though, and it's a point I'm going to be making later for another counterpoint. The flaw is that you're basing your view of the situation on how we do things right now. Japanese players handle releases and acquiring cards without prior knowledge, and they seem to do fine. Now you could argue that cards are cheaper by comparison in Japan, but maybe that has something to do with the fact that they don't have prior knowledge when we do. That might not be the factor that judges prices, but I can see it having some influence on the availability of cards. Without knowing the entire set leading up to its release, a lot of pre-orders will remain relatively tame, meaning the release prices will be lower on the set's initial release, which should give you time at release to find out what cards you need, and you should still be able to save money. It's easy to think that buying and selling will stay the same, but I'm pretty certain that without foreknowledge of a set, the card prices will be lower. It's the fact that we know the entire set that allows us to spend a lot of money unpunished. As soon as it's possible to be punished for buying overzealously, people will slow down on spending. Another argument I've seen against the global release of sets is the argument that it would take too long for the cards to be translated to be released. And this comes from a very easy, yet I'm hoping ill-informed belief. That belief being that Pokemon America only gets to detail the next set's cards when we personally get the scans from Japan. Now, this is an easy trap to fall into. Before we receive the Japanese scans, there's no local news, so we assume that nobody outside of the Pokemon company in Japan knows about these cards. But really, and this is what I want to believe is true, the Pokemon company in America should have access to the card information for upcoming sets well in advance of a Japanese set being released. It's easy to assume that the company is working on sets one at a time. As soon as we got Plasma Storm, they started to work on Plasma Freeze, and when that was released, they started to work on Plasma Blast. But to be honest, we don't know the actual production time they realistically put into sets. Plasma Blast set build-up and print preparation could have been finished for a year now, and we wouldn't really know. What I'm trying to say is, it's most likely that the Pokemon company here has the sets ready to go well in advance of the set's initial release. And this brings me to a point that tends to be made in the same argument: translation time. It seems that some people think that the 3 months between sets being released is the time it takes to translate the set, which I find pretty funny seeing at that. As a fan community, there are people among us who can translate the latest Japanese set in a single night, and the Pokemon company has a whole team of people dedicated to their job. Once again, this is me hoping that's the case and that it isn't one poor guy doing all of it. And really, depending on how long before they have to print they can get preparations done, they can spend an equal amount of time translating and effectively not lose time. To put that into better English, if they can guarantee being ready to print a whole month before they have to print, then they can spend a month translating and not lose time. We also have the fact that this is the electronic age. The company in Japan can send the latest set to their American counterpart the instant they finalise it, meaning the only time lost would be due to time zones. And I've already covered the fact that potentially a month can be wasted without cost, so I'm guessing a few hours won't hurt at all. And the final point before I sign off is the fact that I've seen it said that America wouldn't be able to release products at the same rate as Japan. Now, previous points aside, and I apologise if this is putting words into somebody's mouth, but to me that says America can't do what Japan can. To which I only have one response: why not? America has access to all the same resources, and I'm pretty sure that from a financial standpoint, America is fiscally better off. So why can't America release sets and mini-sets at the same rate as Japan? I can't think of any reasons why one can't achieve what the other can, but that's just my 2 cents. Overall, I still think that our sets won't synchronize, even though I want them to, but I do believe that we can synchronize, and that it overall could be better for the game. But until next time, I'm Router Joey, you guys are top percent. Peace out.